Kiddies, I'm afraid our designer hanger offer has expired. Would somebody please get Mr. De La Renta out of here? Next up on the Home Chopping Network, it's time for the Crypt Keeper's Fashion Boutique. Today we're featuring my full line of Après-Vie death care products. We've got everything from face scream to mascara. Try some. It's the best thing you can do for demise. Or maybe I could interest you in tonight's special. It's a tasteless tidbit about a traveling cemetery plot salesman who's about to make a grave mistake. I call it Death of Some Salesmen.
Eb Jones, come on down.
You're up already. What time is it?
Almost 6 a.m. Hash slinging time.
Hash slinging. I told you last night I'm through with that goddamn coffee shop. I'm going with you, isn't that what we said?
Well, there's been a little change of plans.
But we said last night.
Last night was last night.
So you lied to me.
No, you said you wanted to get out of this stinking little burg, and I sold you a way to do it for the night. But now it's morning, and the warranty's expired.
Damn you.
Oh, spare me the tears, okay, sweetheart?
But you said you loved me.
Yes, I said I loved you, and you dropped your little panties. It's called salesmanship. You must be Mrs. Jones.
Yes, I am.
I'm Judd Campbell from the Restful Hills Memorial Park. You know, you are exactly the way your husband said you are. Is he here?
Well, no. He passed on a few days ago. The funeral was yesterday.
I can't believe it. Just last Monday I saw him. It's like he saw it coming.
He did. He had cancer.
Well, I know that, but Monday he puts a down payment on a new cemetery plot. And then suddenly...
Did you say he put a down payment on a cemetery plot?
$250 for both you and him.
Well, he didn't say anything about it to me.
Well, he wanted it to be a surprise. He picked this spot right here. He wanted you to be among the first to enjoy eternal rest amidst all that beauty. Shame. He was so excited about the benefits package, too. Funeral expenses plus $10,000 cash. He loved you so much.
$10,000?
Yeah, I'll arrange for you to get a full refund when I get back to the office of the $250 deposit.
Oh, but, isn't there some way that I could get the benefits?
I don't see how. Your husband has already passed on.
Well, What if I paid you the money?
Oh, ma'am, that would be illegal.
Oh, I don't see why. My husband intended to pay you the money. What if he'd already sent it? Now, look, I could pay you the money now, in cash, and who's to know when you got it? Oh, please. The funeral was so expensive, and Eb didn't leave me hardly a pig's whistle. Isn't there some way? How much did he owe you?
Another $250. I don't know. I suppose if it were in cash.
Oh, I'll get it for you.
Boing.
I'm afraid I only have $187, and that's all I got in the whole world. Isn't there some way?
Mrs. Jones, you're such a nice lady. I'll find a way.
Oh, bless you. Bless you.
Can I help you?
You must be Mrs. Comfrey. You know, you're exactly the way your husband said you were. He's a very lucky man.
Mrs. Who?
Mrs. Comfrey?
There's nobody here by that name.
Well, isn't this 2465 Maple Street?
No. This here's Maple Drive. Maple Street is way across town.
Oh, my mistake. End of the day, you know how it is.
Young man, are you selling something?
As a matter of fact, because at Restful Hills, we believe that both you and your loved one should be able to rest in peace before as well as after.
Oh, it sounds so nice.
Now, I do have a lovely brochure that I'd like to...
I'm sorry. I don't want Pa to miss this. Pa! Where is that old goat? Pa! Where in tarnation are you?
Hold your horses, Ma. Right in the middle of digging. Oh, we got company.
Mr. Campbell's a salesman, Pa.
A salesman, huh? Ain't that nice? In the old days, traveling salesmen used to come by all the time. Of course, nowadays, everybody stays home, does their shopping on the TV. I don't know, but to me, it just ain't the same.
No.
Well, set yourself. Show us what you got.
I know what you mean. Buying things long distance, you know, you lose that human connection.
Ain't that the truth? And when the product comes,
Shut it, Ma. The young man don't give a damn what you think. Let him get down to business.
I'll do just that, sir. At Restful Hills Memorial Park.
That's some kind of cemetery?
We call ourselves a memorial park. What we do is a whole new concept that tries to bring peace to your loved ones both before and after your demise. For starters, we found a piece of property north side of town that will just knock your socks off. Look at this. Isn't that gorgeous?
oh, it sure is. It looks like the perfect place to spend eternity.
It does look restful, doesn't it?
It's a kind of place the whole family will enjoy coming to pay their last respects, and that in turn makes the process of mourning just plain easier on everyone.
Now, isn't that a nice idea, Pa?
When does the beforehand stuff come in?
That's very smart, sir. The beforehand part comes with the death benefits package. Now, for a small nominal fee, we pay at the time of demise full funeral expenses, plus a death benefit of $10,000 cash. That way, you know your loved ones are going to be taken care of beforehand.
How nominal?
$500 buys everything for the both of you.
$500, that's all?
Of course, we do have the extended death benefit of $20,000, and that'll only cost you $750.
$750 buys you $20,000?
No. You're both covered, so we're talking $40,000.
Well, we can't say no to that, can we? We'll do it.
Great. I'll draw up the paperwork.
Of course, we'll have to see it first.
See
what the cemetery plot looks like.
We like to see a thing work before we buy it.
well, it looks pretty much like this.
Can't buy nothing till we see it first.
Okay, I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna submit your paperwork with the payment, and I'm gonna come back tomorrow. I'm gonna take you there myself. How does that sound?
Sure thing. I expect you let me and Ma to go downstairs and get you some money. You take cash?
I prefer cash. It speeds up the process.
Well, we won't be but a minute.
You want some coffee or something?
Yeah.
Well, if you've been on the road all day, I expect you could use a little pick-me-up.
Come on now, Ma. We don't want to keep the young man.
Coming, Pa.
I'm afraid you ain't going anywhere. I say we kill him now.
I won't let you do it, Pa.
Damn it, woman, I'm tired of you arguing with me. If I want him dead, he's dead, and that's all there is to it.
Don't you raise your voice to me, old man, or I'll have your hat. Besides, it wouldn't be polite to kill him until he wakes up. Anyway, I think Winona should have a look at him first.
Get off of it. He ain't gonna want her. Ain't nobody in Winona's whole ugly goddamn life ever wanted her.
I'd like her to be the judge of that.
Hell, if she do want him. I don't. I don't want no goddamn salesman in the family.
Nobody cares who you want in this family. Besides, only salesmen ever come to this place. And this one seemed especially nice.
Oh, for Christ's sake.
And if this is Winona's only chance at a little happiness, then I want to give it to her.
Well, it ain't gonna happen, 'cause he ain't gonna want her. Hey, you, wake up. Wake up, damn it. He's up.
Please let me go.
Why? So you can run off to the police, tell them all about us?
No, I won't say anything to anybody. I don't care about who those other guys are.
Well, they're salesmen, like you.
Like that guy what sold us the crummy microwave. Didn't work. And the vacuum, and the color TV. Wasn't no color TV till I fixed it. Now it's a color TV.
Really? I won't say anything to anybody. You can let me go.
And why would I trust you? You're a salesman. And a salesman ain't nothing but a thief trying to sucker people out of their hard-earned money, making them buy things they neither want nor need. Well, we've been took one time too many. And if we have to kill every last goddamn salesman on the goddamn planet, so be it.
Now, don't you get too excited, Pa. We ain't doing nothing till Winona sees him first.
Damn girl's nothing but trouble. Come on, Ma.
Are you Winona? Winona is such a nice name. My mother's name was Winona, and she was very beautiful. You played that very well. Anyone ever tell you that? How old are you?
Old enough to know a bunch of bullshit when I hear it.
Why don't you come on over here where I can see you?
Maybe I don't want you to see me.
I don't think that's the case at all. I think you want me to see you very much. You know, I hardly know you, Winona. But I can hear your loneliness. I know that loneliness. It sits on my shoulder and it pecks at my heart. Is that how you feel, Winona?
You sure do talk pretty.
Well, let's you and me have a talk then, face to face.
Okay. Face to face.
Oh, you are so beautiful.
The last thing I am is beautiful.
What is beauty, anyway? But the Mona Lisa has nothing on you. What is that perfume you're wearing?
Not wearing any. I ain't washed in a couple of weeks.
That is so earthy. I love it. This has never happened to me before. I have fallen head over heels in love with you.
You don't love me?
No, I do. I do. Just take these off and let me prove it.
I don't have the keys. And even if I did.
You gotta let me prove it. If you don't let me prove it to you, I swear I'm gonna go crazy.
You really think I'm like the Mona Lisa?
Who cares why the Mona Lisa's smiling that way? I want to know how to make you smile. I want to dedicate myself to you. Oh, this is so lovely.
I hate this room. I hate this whole house.
It's strange how I feel now. Giddy, like a kid. What are you doing?
I want to see these love feelings.
The kind of love I'm talking about is different. It's deeper.
Action's all I believe in. This love talk is very nice, but the body never lies. Now, let's see how much you love me.
I swear I love you. Isn't that good enough?
You still love me? So, show me you love me. Of course, if you don't love me, I'll just have to give you back to Paul and let him deal with you.
I love you. I love you. I love you.
Yeah. I didn't think you...
Wait.
Well, I'll be damned. I think you do love me.
sex I've ever had. Where did you learn to do that?
All those salesmen. Except none of them did what you did. Or like you did. You do love me, don't you?
Like you said, the body never lies. The question is, do you love me?
Of course I love you. I ain't gonna let my daddy hurt you if that's what you're worried about. I want to marry you. If we got married, you'd get my dowry, and they'd let you go, and we could run away and be happy together. I hate it here. Mom and Pa treat me so mean.
Did you say dowry?
Yeah. Pa's got it buried in the basement. It's the money from all those salesmen. It must be $40,000, $50,000.
Yes. Yes, let's get married.
I'm getting hitched.
You really want to do this thing?
Absolutely. I love your daughter.
And I love him, Pa.
Let's get this started.
Aren't we gonna have a preacher?
Pa is a preacher.
Do you, Judd Campbell, take my daughter, Winona Brackett, to be your lawful wedded wife?
I do.
And do you, Winona, take this man to be your lawful wedded husband?
You bet I do, Pa.
Let's have the ring, Ma.
Thank you.
If you will place this ring on Winona's...
Wait a minute, Pa. Ain't you gonna take these handcuffs off? He's marrying me. You think he's gonna spend the rest of his life walking around with these things on?
She's right, Pa. If he's willing to marry her, it's the least you can do. Well, I guess. No, I ain't gonna. I'll marry him to you, but that's as far as it goes.
But, Pa...
It's just the way it is, Winona. I'm still gonna have to shoot him. He's a salesman. He can't be trusted.
Damn you, Pa! This is the first chance of happiness I got. And you can't come and kill that. No! Winona, twin princess. Winona! What are you doing, Winona? Winona, you killed him! Let me get that for you, darling. Now, let's go get that dowry. Here's where it is.
Great. Oh, by the way, I have a little wedding present for you, my love.
Ah.
Ugly bitch. What the hell?
You find something down there, young man? You know, Mom, the young man's right. This sure is a mighty nice cemetery plot.
But
The view ain't much, but I think he'll rest in peace just the same. Well, no. You gonna pay your respects or what? I sure hope I can get this fake blood out of my dress. Oh, just throw it in the new washing machine that other nice salesman brought us.
you lied to me, all of you.
Lied? Now, that ain't a nice thing to say. Besides, 'twarn't no lie at all. No, sir. It's called... salesmanship.
Good old Judd. Just another satisfied ghostomer. I guess it's true what they say. The family that slays together stays together. We come now to one of my favorite items. The amazing Crypt Keeper Slash-O-Matic. It's more than just a knife. It peels, it cuts, makes fabulous French fries. It slices, it dices, it... Oh...
You've got to help me, Dr. Viscus. It's our son's eating habits.
You said you were cannibals, right?
Yes, that's why this vegetarianism thing scares me.
No need to worry. For one thing, vegetarians are probably much better for him. I like to stalk one myself from time to time. My advice is to let him fiend himself. The little nipper will never learn to maggot on his own if you're too busy protecting him. Our next caller, Leo, thinks his wife is cheating on him. Let's hope for her sake he doesn't catch her in the hacked. I call this sickening psychodrama As Ye Sow.
Here she is, exiting the produce market.
I got eyes, for Christ's sake. How'd your guy know she didn't go out the back for a quickie?
I had a man in back and another one inside the store.
3 guys, that's it.
3 is all the FBI would use. Here she stops briefly at the butcher's. And her daily 10 o'clock visit to St. Xavier's.
Paid you guys 30 grand for this shit? Home movies of my wife going in and out of stores and church?
I told you when we undertook this job that it would be expensive, that we might come up with nothing, particularly if your wife is up to nothing. Face it, Mr. Burns, your wife is a regular choir girl.
Just because you couldn't catch her at it doesn't mean she isn't doing it. I know she's up to some shit. I can feel it on the skin every time I touch her. I can see it in her eyes when she looks at me. tearing me apart, for Christ's sake. You think I'm some kind of asshole, don't you?
Look, Mr. Burns, when a guy marries a woman, what, 20, 25 years younger than he is?
24.
24, a pretty woman, it can get to him, you know, emotionally. It can affect his judgment.
What? You're telling me I need a shrink? Hmm?
A marriage counselor might be a good investment for starters. Encounter group, health farm, spa.
Look, I don't need your new age bullshit. And I don't want any more of your half-assed surveillance either. I'm gonna find somebody else who knows what the hell they're doing.
Fine. You look under enough rocks, you'll come up with some sheet smeller who'll be happy to take your money.
In your ear, pal.
Your wife's very lovely. A catch for any man, married or not. I can only sympathize with your problem. I would, of course, give your case the highest priority.
Mm-hmm. You know, those other guys were supposed to be the best in town. How do I know you're any good?
You wouldn't go to an optometrist to get your kidney stones removed, would you?
What kidney stones?
I'm making a point. You went to a man whose expertise is in insurance fraud, embezzling, that sort of thing. And for this, Chapman is very good. I'd go to him. But infidelity is another kettle of fish. He was insensitive to your suspicions, correct?
Made me feel like a fucking asshole.
Then they were the assholes. In my substantial experience, a man or woman's suspicions about their other half are invariably correct. Things betray. A mouth that hesitates to answer a question. A shoulder that cringes to the touch. Eyes that have to look away. Things that he might not even be able to put into words, but nevertheless are a smoke signal that something is going on. And where there's smoke,
there's fucking fire.
Exactly. Mr. Byrne, when did you first suspect your wife was having an affair?
A couple of months ago. You know, when she stopped.
Stopped having conjugal relations with you.
Oh, Christ. It's not like it's something you can talk about.
Tell me, Mr. Byrne, does your wife wear easy access clothing?
What?
Does she wear full or pleated skirts? Stretch pants that just slip over the hips? Does she prefer garter belts to pantyhose?
I don't know.
You're in the dry cleaning business and you don't notice your wife's clothing?
I know about clothing. I don't know about that. What are you trying to tell me?
All I'm saying is you ought to think about these things. Mr. Byrne, I don't know yet if your wife is having an affair or not. But we do have a saying in this business. If you're not getting it, someone else is. So. Shall we get to work?
What are you doing?
What's this?
It's lingerie.
I know that. I mean, what is this here, eh?
What do you think it is?
Well, I want you to tell me that.
It's for going to the loo. Is there anything else you want to know about me under things? Look.
Really? It's for that?
What a silly question. What else would it be for, eh?
Well,
Leo, look at this mess.
darling, you know, since we're both home,
Not now, Leo.
it's been such a long time.
You know the time is a week away when you can do your dirty business.
I don't want to wait a week. I want it now.
Leo. No, Leo.
Come on,
No. Leo, no. No.
It's only been a week. You got something for me already?
For a professional, a week's enough.
This is the same shit as the other guy got.
Is it? Take a look at the last two again. Carefully.
So what's this? So she's happier coming out than when she went in. Big deal. I mean, she's been spiritually uplifted. What are you laughing at?
I'm sorry, Mr. Byrne, but what young woman in this day and age goes to Mass every day?
But she's from Ireland. They all do that over there.
Do you know that they do that? Or does she just say that they do that?
I'm not sure. So who's this?
Who do you think? It's him.
A priest. She's banging a priest, for Christ's sake. Are you out of your mind?
Am I? His name is Father John Sajak. He's a radical. He was fired from his last position for disobeying the Pope's encyclical on contraception. Now take another look at that picture of your wife leaving the church.
I don't believe it.
Check it out for yourself. Talk to the man. He'll be able to tell.
Good afternoon. Can I help you?
Yeah, where's Father Sajak?
He's up in the choir loft.
Thanks. Father Sajak?
Whenever I'm struggling with a sermon, I find that playing a little music helps smooth the way. Can I help you?
Yeah. I just moved into the neighborhood. I thought I'd check out your parish. For my wife and me and the kids.
Ah, family man. That's nice to hear that. Mr.
Leo. Leone.
I'm John Sajak.
Father? Why is it nice to hear that?
Well, we have a lot of overstressed young professionals here in the flock, and unstable relationships and all the issues that are connected to that are part of the inevitability I have to deal with.
Why don't you
It's
just
nice.
roll that back a minute. What issues?
Well, premarital sex, marital infidelity, contraception, abortion, divorce, you know, that sort of thing.
Yeah, when I grew up, that kind of shit, that stuff, was immoral, pure and simple. It's not in your book?
Well, Mr. Leone, it's my opinion that the church has to acknowledge contemporary values and problems, or else it ceases to be of any value to the people. Now, it's my goal to reestablish the Catholic Church as a living, potent organ, throbbing with vitality, bursting with life. Now, I want to embrace the people as they are, with all their contemporary problems, take them in my arms and hold them, and say, hey, it's okay to be you. Now, you'll excuse me, I have to hear a confession.
Excuse me, Father, what do you call that you're wearing?
This is a cassock.
Why do you wear that instead of a suit?
Well, it's more comfortable. Not to mention the fact that sometimes it comes in handy. Excuse me.
I'm ready for you now. Why don't you come in? It's nice to see you again.
You too, Father.
Bless me, Father, for I have sinned. My last confession was a week ago. And since then, I've had impure thoughts.
And what were those thoughts?
That I am a wicked whore, worthless in God's eyes.
Hey, it's okay to be you.
Scipio Domini,
Must have done the way.
the manibus tuis et laudum et gloria camerus sui.
Holy Mary, Mother of God.
For nos,
Now to behold us dead. Amen.
Tres, it's my son.
Father.
I got your living potent organ, you son of a bitch!
Face the facts, Mrs. Byrne. Your worst suspicions are true.
But I don't want it to be over between Bridget and me. I still love her.
I'm not a marriage counselor, but offhand I'd say it's already over between you. Under the present circumstances, that is. Maybe it's time to see a lawyer.
No lawyer. I can still get her back. It's just that fucking priest.
Why did you come back here? What do you want, really?
What do you mean?
Why don't you just say it? You want the priest dead.
Yeah. That's right. I want the priest dead. I want the son of a bitch shot in his dick, then in his ear. And I want Bridget to be there when it happens.
That's a tall order, Mr. Byrne.
Forget it. But not too tall.
If you have the money.
How much?
A fraction of what the divorce would cost. $50,000 for the people.
You got it.
And another 50 for me. All in advance, and to be left in a place of my choosing.
In advance? What, do I look like a moron or something?
I'll overlook the implications of that, Mr. Byrne, because you have been under a great deal of stress.
Forget I mentioned it.
Forgotten. Once you leave here tonight, I never want to see you or hear from you again. Just go about your business as conspicuously as possible. Go places, see people, make a lot of noise. Forget all about this.
Yeah. But when will it happen?
Maybe a week, maybe a month. But it will be handled. The less you know, the better. Now, what do you say?
In his ear.
Bus number 57 departing for Detroit on platform 2. Will passenger M. Conager please go to the information office? Bus number 14 arriving from New England at platform 4.
I wouldn't miss this for the world. That's good. Yeah? I'm sorry, Bridge.
Leo, I feel like you're angry at me, and I really don't know why.
It's nothing. It's nothing, girl.
Leo, I'm really tired. Night night.
Bridget. Bridget! I can't take this! Son of a bitch. Shit!
Father, are you there? Father?
Yes, one moment, please. Just one moment.
Bless me, Father, for I have sinned. My last confession was a week ago.
So, what are your sins? If you have to seek absolution, you have to tell me your sins.
I've been a bad... No, I've been a terrible wife. A liar who has caused my husband too much suffering.
What did you lie about?
My reasons why I don't perform the duties of a wife more often.
Why didn't you do that?
I've wanted to tell him, Father, so many times, but I was afraid he wouldn't understand. You see, my mother died giving birth, and I'm so afraid it would happen to me if ever I got pregnant. I just...
Wait a minute. Is that it?
Yes. I'm truly penitent in my heart, and I'm ready to make an act of contrition if only you can grant me absolution.
You didn't do it. You didn't do it.
Leo?
Oh, Bridge.
Is that you?
It's me, Bridge. Bridge, come on, get out of there.
Oh, Leo. Leo. What were you doing in there?
Doesn't matter. It's all right, baby. All is forgiven. It's all right.
Let go of her, Father.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. No, this isn't what it looks like. See, look, I'm no priest. I'm the guy who hired you. And I don't need you anymore. You're...
In your ear, Father.
Oh, Leo. Leo. Oh, Leo. Oh, Leo. No, Leo.
In the name of the Father, of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. O Lord, do not bring your servant to trial, for no man becomes holy in your sight unless you grant him forgiveness of all his sins.
Talk about a pain in the apps. That's love for you. Eerie today, gaunt tomorrow. As for me, kiddies, my shift's up. It's the top of the hour. Time for your favorite morning man. What's the matter? You've never seen a shock jock before?
The rain fell in thick, unrelenting sheets that evening, hammering against the slick streets of the city like a percussive drumbeat of warning. Neon lights from the shops flickered and stuttered, reflecting off puddles that seemed to swallow the weak glow of the street lamps. Inside a cramped office on the 20th floor of a nondescript building, the hum of fluorescent lights buzzed with a kind of nervous energy, mirroring the tension that had been simmering all day. The office was a typical corporate beehive, gray walls lined with motivational posters, cubicles stacked in rigid rows, and a faint scent of stale coffee mingling with the ever-present odor of sweat and paper dust. The sales department of Van Brunton County was alive with the nervous chatter of men and women who knew that today, like every other day, their fortunes could swing wildly with the slightest misstep. Douglas Merrick sat behind his mahogany desk, a relic from the 1970s with its once polished surface now dulled by years of cigarette burns and coffee rings. His eyes, sharp and calculating beneath a brow perpetually furrowed, scanned the reports before him. They were sales numbers, projections, and client feedback. All the metrics that could make or break the lives of the men who called themselves salesmen in this concrete jungle. His office was cluttered with trophies of past successes, little golden plaques shaped like skyscrapers and sleek desk clocks frozen forever at some arbitrary hour of triumph. But these artifacts of victory felt hollow tonight, as though the rain outside had seeped into the room and drummed against his chest with a message he could not yet decipher. Across the office, a man in his early 40s, lanky and slick with the sort of confidence that only came from repeated minor victories, leaned against the cubicle wall. This was Carl Finnegan, the kind of salesman who could charm a contract out of a client before they even realized they had money to spend. His hair was combed meticulously, though a few rogue strands fell over his forehead, and his pinstripe suit smelled faintly of expensive cologne. Carl's eyes roamed the room, taking in colleagues hunched over keyboards, the occasional shouted complaint about a missed quota, and the ever-ominous glare of Douglas Merrick. He smirked, the kind of self-satisfied smirk that only a man convinced of his own invincibility could wear without shame. Yet tonight that smirk was tinged with unease, a flicker of foreboding that he quickly pushed aside. The clock on the wall ticked steadily towards 6, and with each passing second, the tension in the office grew heavier, denser, as if the room itself had become a living entity holding its breath. Douglas finally lifted his gaze from the spreadsheets and met Carl's eyes with a piercing intensity. "Carl," he said, his voice smooth but carrying a weight that made the other man stiffen. "You've been late on your numbers this quarter. Your clients are slipping through the cracks. Do you know what happens when that continues?" The room seemed to still, the background hum of fluorescent lights and distant traffic fading into a silence that pressed on Carl's ears. Carl forced a chuckle, trying to play it off with bravado. "Of course, Douglas, you know me. I'm—" "Don't!" Douglas interrupted sharply, leaning forward in his chair. "Don't give me that empty charm. You're standing on thin ice, Finnegan. Thin, fragile, and it's about to crack. I need results, and I need them yesterday." Outside, the rain intensified, hammering against the glass with an almost violent rhythm. Carl's mind raced. He knew that Van Brunton Co. had a reputation for ruthlessness when it came to sales performance. Termination wasn't a vague threat here, it was a certainty for those who stumbled. And yet, Carl had something up his sleeve, something no one else knew, something that might tip the scales back in his favor. He didn't smile. He didn't move. He simply nodded, letting the weight of Douglas's words sink in, knowing the coming hours would demand every ounce of cunning he possessed. Meanwhile, across town, other salesmen were experiencing similar pressures, each one locked in their own private battle against quotas, deadlines, and the ever-looming specter of corporate wrath. In a dimly lit bar not far from the financial district, Vincent Cray, another top-tier salesman with a reputation for ruthless tactics and smooth lies, nursed a whiskey while scrolling through his phone. The screen glowed in the dark, illuminating the sharp angles of his face. He had just learned that a major client, one that had been his golden ticket for months, was reconsidering their contract. A ripple of unease ran through him, a feeling he hadn't experienced in years. And yet, beneath the tension, there was an unmistakable thrill. The danger was intoxicating, the stakes deliciously high. Vincent sipped the whiskey and smiled to himself. "They want me gone? Fine," he murmured, his breath fogging in the chilly air of the bar. "We'll see who survives this game." Back in the office, the hours ticked by with torturous slowness. The rain didn't let up, and outside the city seemed to shiver under the relentless downpour. The office had emptied almost entirely, leaving only a skeleton crew of late-night grinders who knew that success favored the desperate. Carl remained at his desk, eyes glued to the glowing numbers on his computer screen, fingers poised to make the moves that would save him, or doom him. He had planned meticulously, rehearsing every line, every pitch, every angle, and yet a strange sensation crawled over his spine, a sense that unseen eyes were tracking his every move. He shook it off, blaming the stress, the rain, the never-ending pressure that defined the life of a salesman in this city. But then came the first anomaly. A message, blinking in the corner of Carl's screen, from an address he didn't recognize. It was simple, cryptic. "Do you know the true cost of a sale?" Carl frowned, leaning closer. He tapped at the keyboard, trying to trace the sender, but the system returned nothing. No origin, no metadata, nothing. It was as though the message had appeared from nowhere, a ghostly whisper from the digital ether. He laughed nervously. "Some kind of joke," he muttered. Yet the words gnawed at him, each repetition echoing in his mind. The true cost. The true cost. Hours passed, the office growing colder as the night deepened. The hum of the fluorescent lights now sounded almost like a chant, an incantation of doom. Carl rubbed his eyes, trying to focus, and that's when he noticed something else. A shadow flitting across the far corner of the office, impossibly fast, almost intangible. He squinted, but the space was empty, save for the rows of empty cubicles and abandoned chairs. A chill washed over him. The rational part of his mind insisted it was nothing, a trick of the light, his imagination fueled by fatigue. But another part, a darker, more primal part, whispered a warning. Something was here. Watching. Waiting. As the night wore on, Carl became increasingly aware of the fine line he was treading between success and failure, life and something far more sinister. He could almost feel it, the pressure manifesting not just in numbers, but in the very air around him, thickening with every passing minute. And then, in the quietest instant imaginable, the office phone rang. A shrill, piercing sound that cut through the oppressive silence like a knife. Carl jumped, his heart hammering, and picked it up with a trembling hand. The voice on the other end was smooth, cultured, almost pleasant, but it carried an undertone that made Carl's stomach twist in fear. "Do you want to know the true cost of a sale, Mr. Finnegan?" it asked. No introduction, no explanation, just that one chilling question. Carl's mouth went dry. "Who is this?" he demanded, though a part of him already knew. There was a pause, a long, deliberate silence, and then the voice said, almost casually, "You will see soon enough." Before he could respond, the line went dead, leaving Carl alone in the office with the sound of his own ragged breathing and the rain hammering relentlessly against the windows. Somewhere, in the distance, the city groaned under the weight of the storm, and Carl felt the first prickling sensation of fear, sharp and undeniable, threading through his veins. This wasn't just about sales, quotas, or even Douglas Merrick anymore. Something far older, far colder, had arrived in the office with him, stalking him through the fluorescent haze, marking him for a reckoning that no amount of charm, wit, or cunning could escape. And as he sat there alone, staring at the darkened cubicles around him, Carl knew, with a certainty that made his blood run cold, that the death of some salesman was not merely a metaphor. It was coming, and tonight it would begin. The storm outside intensified as the night deepened, turning the city streets into rivers of flickering neon reflections and echoing the tension inside Van Brunton County's office. Carl Finnegan sat frozen at his desk, the dead phone clutched loosely in his hand. Every nerve in his body screamed that he should leave, that he should bolt down the stairwell and vanish into the anonymity of the rain-soaked streets. Yet something held him there, a mix of curiosity and fear that rooted him to his chair. The office, once a haven of routine and predictable cruelty, had transformed into something alien, a labyrinth in which unseen forces had begun to play. It started subtly at first, a flicker of movement in the corner of his vision, the faint whisper of static over the intercom system, the sudden drop in temperature that made his breath cloud in front of his face. Carl tried to convince himself that he was imagining things, that the stress of the day, the rain, and the looming threat of termination were conspiring against his sanity, but then the flicker became undeniable. A figure, just at the edge of the cubicle shadows, almost transparent, moving with a predatory grace that was impossible for any ordinary human. Carl swallowed hard, his fingers tightening around the receiver that now hung lifeless by the phone cord. This isn't real, he muttered, though his voice lacked conviction. He stood slowly, each creaking step of his shoes on the polished floor echoing in the cavernous office. The fluorescent lights above flickered, bathing the room in a strobing, uneven glow that made shadows leap across the walls like frantic dancers. And then, just as suddenly, the light stabilized, leaving the office bathed in an eerie, unnatural clarity. The figure was closer now, a vague shape that shifted and shimmered in the corner of Carl's vision. It moved without sound, without footsteps, yet with an unmistakable presence that made the hairs on the back of his neck rise. Carl's mind raced. Was this a hallucination? A manifestation of guilt, stress, or fear? Or was it something far darker, a literal embodiment of the consequences whispered by the mysterious phone call? Before he could decide, the office door creaked open, a slow, deliberate motion that made Carl freeze in place. He turned sharply, expecting perhaps a colleague or a janitor, but the hallway beyond was empty, dimly lit, and unnervingly silent. The rain outside pounded with renewed ferocity, and he could see water streaking down the windows, distorted reflections of the city lights dancing across the floor. The shadows seemed to pulse, to shift in a rhythm that defied logic, and Carl realized with a sinking feeling that he was no longer alone. Then came the sound. A faint, deliberate tapping, like fingernails against glass, coming from somewhere deep within the office. Carl's heart pounded against his ribs as he turned toward the noise, straining to see. The tapping persisted, slow, measured, almost musical in its cadence, but utterly terrifying. It came from the direction of the cubicles, and yet, when Carl stepped closer, the space seemed empty, as if the sound itself had no origin. He staggered back, clutching his chest as adrenaline coursed through his veins, and that's when the voice returned, soft, calm, and unmistakably real. "Do you know what it takes to close a deal, Mr. Finnegan?" Carl spun, but again, there was no one. The voice seemed to emanate from everywhere at once, surrounding him, pressing against his ears, vibrating inside his skull. "Who's there?" he demanded, his voice trembling despite his attempt at authority. "Show yourself!" Silence answered him, only for a moment, before the voice continued, almost conversationally. "Salesmen like you. You think your charm, your wit, your lies make you untouchable, but every transaction, every signature carries a price, and tonight, the balance must be paid." The words hit Carl like a physical blow. He stumbled backward, heart hammering, mind reeling. He had made his share of ruthless deals, burned competitors, lied, cheated, and manipulated, all in the pursuit of commission and status. And yet, no amount of cunning had prepared him for this, an unseen reckoning that had chosen him specifically, as if some cosmic ledger had marked his sins and now demanded repayment. He backed into his desk, tripping over a chair and sending it clattering across the floor. The sound echoed unnaturally, bouncing off the walls, and for a fleeting second the office seemed to expand, becoming a vast, impossibly high chamber where shadows stretched infinitely. And then, from the darkness, a hand appeared, fingers long and skeletal, almost translucent, gripping the edge of the cubicle nearest him. Carl froze, his eyes wide, unable to look away from the grotesque apparition that had materialized from the shadows. You can't be real," Carl whispered, though the fear in his voice betrayed him. The figure tilted its head as though studying him with a detached curiosity. Its eyes, hollow yet piercing, seemed to bore into his very soul. "Real?" it said, its voice like the scraping of metal on stone. "I am as real as the debts you have incurred, the promises you have broken, the lives you have trampled for profit. You have sold more than products, Mr. Finnegan. You have sold trust, hope, even dreams. And now, payment is due." Carl's knees buckled and he sank to the floor, his mind spinning. The rational part of him screamed that this was impossible, that he was hallucinating, that stress had finally broken him. But the cold, inexorable presence of the figure told a different story, a story that didn't require belief to be true. The air grew colder still, frosting the edges of his glasses, and he could see his breath in quick, panicked bursts. In that moment, the office door slammed shut with a force that made the walls tremble. Carl bolted upright, scrambling to his feet, but the room was transformed. The cubicles stretched into endless corridors of shadow, the ceiling lost in darkness, and the fluorescent lights flickered and died, plunging him into near-complete blackness. Only the figure remained, illuminated by some unearthly glow, advancing toward him with deliberate, inexorable steps. "You cannot escape," it said, and the words reverberated in the room, each syllable a hammer blow to his psyche. "You have taken much, and now you will give back. One by one they will fall, and you will witness it all. Salesmen like you are not meant to prosper without consequence." Carl tried to run, his legs pumping furiously, but the floor beneath him had changed. It was no longer solid. It felt as if he were running across some intangible plane, his movements sluggish, distorted. The office had become a nightmare labyrinth, corridors folding in on themselves, cubicles stretching endlessly into darkness. Behind him, the tapping resumed, faster now, a staccato rhythm that matched the frantic beat of his heart. Then came the first scream, a high, blood-curdling wail that pierced the darkness. Carl froze, blood draining from his face. The scream seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once, echoing through the infinite cubicles, bouncing off walls that didn't exist. He recognized it immediately. It was Vincent Cray, his rival, his fellow predator in the world of sales, now caught in the same inescapable web. Carl stumbled forward, chasing the sound, desperate to escape, desperate to understand, but every turn led him deeper into the maze. The figure followed, silent, relentless, a harbinger of doom, and the whispers began. Voices of the fallen, the cheated, the betrayed, all recounting their debts, all demanding justice in a chorus that rattled Carl's sanity. He realized, with crushing clarity, that this was not a random haunting, not a mere specter of guilt. It was judgment. It was reckoning. And every contract he had ever signed, every handshake he had ever used to manipulate or deceive, had led him here, into the waiting arms of a cosmic tribunal that recognized no mercy. Somewhere ahead, a door appeared, glowing faintly, promising escape or salvation. Carl lunged for it, hope sparking briefly, only for the figure to intercept him with a speed that defied explanation. Its skeletal hand gripped his shoulder, cold as death, and the air around them shimmered with an otherworldly energy. "You cannot run from what you are," it whispered, and Carl felt his body lift slightly from the floor, suspended in a state between fear and suspension, between life and the inevitable judgment to come. Tonight, the death of some salesman begins, and you will bear witness. For in this world, every sale has its price. And then the darkness swallowed him entirely, leaving only the sound of the rain, relentless, hammering against the windows, as if mocking the fragile mortality of men who had thought themselves untouched. Carl Finnegan awoke with a start, gasping as if he had surfaced from a drowning, his body slick with cold sweat. The office was still, but the silence was heavy, almost oppressive, broken only by the soft hiss of the rain against the windows. For a moment he could convince himself that it had been a nightmare, a fevered hallucination fueled by exhaustion and fear. But when he tried to rise from the floor, a strange sensation gripped him. The room no longer felt familiar. The cubicles stretched taller than ever, their shadows deep and twisting like ink in water. The fluorescent lights flickered with an erratic pulse, casting jagged patterns that seemed to slither along the walls. Carl staggered to his feet, hands trembling, and made his way toward the door. It was there that he noticed it. A single business card lying on the floor, one that he did not recognize and that hadn't been there before. The edges were scorched, the ink slightly smudged, but the words were clear. Your salesmanship has a cost. Witness the payment. His stomach twisted at the sight. He bent to pick it up, and as he did, the shadows in the office began to shift. He could feel them moving around him, curling at his heels, rising like living smoke along the walls. Suddenly, the phone on his desk rang again, its shrill tone piercing the quiet like a scream. Carl froze, his breath caught in his throat. He hadn't touched it. No one had been in the office. The receiver felt impossibly heavy in his hands as he lifted it, and the same chilling voice spoke, more casually this time, as if it had been waiting for him to awaken. "Did you enjoy the demonstration, Mr. Finnegan?" Carl swallowed, his voice trembling. What do you want from me?" "Observation," the voice said simply. "You will watch, and you will learn. The cost of a sale is not in money or contracts. It is in blood, in trust, in lives. And tonight, you will understand what that truly means." The line went dead. Carl felt a shiver crawl down his spine. He wanted to scream, to run, to throw himself out of the office into the rain-soaked streets below, but a force held him in place, invisible and unyielding. The shadows seemed to thicken, pressing in around him, and he realized that escape was not an option, not tonight, not in this reality that had been twisted into a grotesque reflection of the world he knew. Then came the first sight. Vincent Cray, or at least what had been Vincent Cray moments ago, standing at the far end of the office corridor. His expression was frozen in terror, his body trembling as if caught between movement and paralysis. But it was the wounds that made Carl's stomach lurch. Vincent's chest bore deep, unnatural gashes, and streaks of dark liquid spread rapidly across his pinstripe suit. Despite the severity of his injuries, he remained alive, or at least semi-conscious, his eyes wide with a mixture of pain and incredulity. Carl took an involuntary step forward, a weak cry escaping his lips. "Vincent, what's happening?" The voice returned, omnipresent and cold. "Witness, Carl. Witness the consequences of your ambition, your greed, your lies." As if on cue, the office transformed further. The cubicles elongated endlessly, walls bending and folding in impossible angles, until Carl felt as though he were standing in a cathedral of glass and steel, the city beyond the windows obscured by the fog of the storm. Around him, other salesmen, faces familiar from meetings, conferences, and client calls, appeared, each one trapped in their own nightmare. Some writhed in pain, clawing at invisible restraints. Others floated in midair, suspended as if by some invisible cord, their eyes wide with terror. The scene was horrific, yet precise, like a tableau set by some sadistic artist, a warning that judgment was being executed with meticulous care. Carl's mind raced. He recognized the faces, knew their reputations, their methods, the subtle betrayals each had committed, and he began to understand. This was not random. The force that haunted the office had chosen them, selected them as representatives of the predatory world of sales, each bound to pay a tithe for the lives they had affected. The realization hit him like a physical blow. We're all guilty," he whispered, voice barely audible over the rain. The skeletal figure emerged from the shadows, gliding effortlessly across the floor. Its eyes, hollow and unyielding, scanned the room. Carl felt a gaze pierce him, an intensity that burned with judgment and inevitability. "You understand," it said, voice like grinding bone. "This is only the beginning. You may yet survive, if you truly comprehend the meaning of cost. But survival is never guaranteed. Some salesmen die tonight. Others live to witness the fall of their colleagues." A scream erupted from the far corridor, wrenching Carl's attention. It was Douglas Merrick, the towering and merciless head of the sales department, caught in a cruel and impossible snare of shadows and glass shards that cut through his tailored suit with a precision that was almost surgical. Carl's stomach turned as he watched the ruthless manager thrash against the invisible bindings, his expression one of disbelief and horror. Merrick's eyes locked onto Carl's, and in that moment, a wordless communication passed between them. Shock, fear, and a plea for salvation that Carl could not fulfill. The voice spoke again, this time directly into Carl's mind. "Do you see now? Salesmanship is a covenant. Every lie, every exploitation, every betrayal, it accrues a debt, and the balance must be paid in ways you cannot imagine. Carl's knees buckled under the weight of comprehension. He had spent years climbing, stepping over colleagues, manipulating clients, and ignoring the human cost of his ambition. He had justified it all, rationalized every shortcut, every betrayal. But now, confronted with the tangible consequences, he realized the enormity of his sins. And in the echoing, rain-filled office, there was no one to argue with, no lawyer, no contract, no loophole, only judgment. The shadows shifted again, pulling him forward with a force he could not resist. Carl stumbled, moving toward the center of the office where a large conference table had once stood, now transformed into an altar of reckoning. Upon it lay contracts, receipts, business cards, all glowing with a faint, unnatural light. As he approached, the skeletal figure extended a hand, pointing to a document that shimmered ominously. "Read it," the voice commanded. Carl's hand shook as he picked up the topmost sheet. It was a contract he had signed months ago with a small, struggling company, a deal that had bankrupted them, left families in ruin, and enriched only himself and the firm. The paper seemed to burn under his fingers, the ink rising like molten metal, spelling out not terms of commerce, but accusations. Greed, deception, betrayal, exploitation. Every word was etched into his mind, each phrase a weight that pressed down on him with unbearable force. And then the first death occurred. A flash of light, blinding and white, erupted at the edge of the office. Carl turned, horror-stricken, to see Vincent Cray convulsing violently, his eyes wide with terror. The injuries that had already seemed impossible worsened instantly. Bones snapped, flesh tore, and yet there was no blood, only a faint, luminous residue that glowed like moonlight on water. Vincent's scream echoed, growing fainter, and then, abruptly, he fell silent, his body crumpling to the floor in a heap that shimmered and disappeared as though he had never existed. Carl staggered back, mouth open, unable to process what he had just witnessed. No, this can't be real," he whispered, though even he could hear the trembling in his voice. The skeletal figure advanced, its hollow gaze fixed upon him. "It is real," it said, "and it is inevitable. One by one, the debtors are collected. Some salesmen die tonight, and some are left to bear witness, to understand, to learn. Your choice is to run and fail, or to watch and survive, perhaps." Carl's legs moved before he could think, propelled by pure instinct. He fled down the warped corridors of the office, chasing the sound of screams and shadows, the surreal geometry of the space bending and folding around him. Around every corner, he saw colleagues in torment, accountants, junior salesmen, mid-level managers, all ensnared in impossible punishments that reflected their misdeeds. Each encounter burned into his mind, a mosaic of suffering that would haunt him forever. Yet through the chaos, a small spark of determination ignited within him. If survival meant understanding the cost of every action, if watching the fates of his peers was the price, then he would endure. He would bear witness. He would remember every face, every scream, every injustice. And in doing so, perhaps, he reasoned, he could bargain. He could learn, he could escape the ultimate toll. The figure followed silently, its presence constant and oppressive. Carl could feel the cold fingers of inevitability brushing against him with every step. And as he rounded another corner, he came face to face with a vast window overlooking the city, a panorama distorted by the storm. Lightning illuminated the skyscrapers, the streets, and the distant rivers, revealing the city as both familiar and alien. Carl's reflection appeared in the glass, twisted and haunted, and for the first time he truly saw himself, not as a master of sales, but as a man entangled in the consequences of his ambition. And somewhere, far below, the first of the night's reckoning had begun, sending ripples across the city, a warning to all who thought themselves untouchable. Carl Finnegan's reflection in the rain-streaked window shimmered, distorted by the storm outside and the unnatural light within. The city sprawled below him, familiar yet haunting, as if he were seeing it not through the eyes of a man alive, but through the lens of judgment itself. The skeletal figure lingered behind him, silent, an immovable shadow that seemed almost fused to the dim glow of the office. Carl's heart hammered, each beat echoing through his chest like the tolling of a distant bell. Somewhere deep inside, he knew he had entered a realm where ordinary rules no longer applied. Time bent, space twisted. Consequences manifested physically and immediately. A sound drew his attention, shuffling steps from the far end of the corridor. Carl turned sharply and saw a flicker of movement among the cubicles. A man emerged, thin, wiry, eyes wide with panic, and dressed in the uniform of a salesman from a rival firm. Carl recognized him immediately. Thomas Briggs, a man known for ruthless underhanded tactics, for driving smaller competitors into ruin with predatory pricing and deceptive contracts. And now Thomas stumbled forward, his suit torn and stained with a dark, iridescent fluid that seemed neither blood nor ink, a symbol of some unnatural punishment. "Carl!" Thomas gasped, his voice hoarse, trembling. It's happening. It's real." Carl's mind reeled. I know. I saw Vincent and Douglas." His voice faltered, fear and disbelief tangling into a knot of desperation. They're dead, or something worse, and you're next if you don't." But Thomas couldn't respond. His eyes widened in horror as the skeletal figure glided forward impossibly fast and raised a long, bony finger. Thomas's body convulsed violently, his arms thrashing as the figure whispered something inaudible, a sound like nails scratching against stone. Carl wanted to intervene, to pull him away, but an invisible force rooted him to the spot. He could only watch as Thomas's limbs contorted in ways that defied biology, his screams echoing through the warped corridors, each shriek carving into Carl's psyche. And then, as suddenly as it began, it ended. Thomas collapsed to the floor, his body dissolving into a pale mist that hovered briefly before vanishing entirely, leaving only the eerie silence behind. Carl staggered backward, gasping for breath. His mind struggled to comprehend the scope of what he had witnessed. These weren't just deaths, they were transformations, judgments made tangible, inescapable, and absolute. Every competitor, every colleague, every man or woman who had wielded power through manipulation, charm, or coercion was marked. And the ledger was being balanced tonight in this surreal, merciless purgatory. "Why us?" Carl whispered, his voice trembling. "Why salesmen? Why now?" The voice returned, omnipresent, chillingly calm. "Because you choose your victims carefully, and yet you forget that every action has a price. You've made deals with lives, with trust, with hope, and tonight those debts are collected. You are not innocent. None of you are." The skeletal figure drifted closer, the air around it cold, suffocating, each movement deliberate and unyielding. Carl could feel his skin crawl, a prickling sensation like ants crawling beneath the surface, a warning of the unnatural forces at play. He realized then that understanding this nightmare was not merely about survival, it was about recognition. He had to see, to understand, to internalize the cost of every betrayal, every unscrupulous act, every compromise of conscience. Further down the corridor, another scene unfolded. A salesman Carl knew well. Gerald Knox, a man who had built a career on charming widows and exploiting grieving clients, was suspended in mid-air, writhing as invisible wires seemed to pull him in every direction at once. Gerald's face twisted in a grotesque expression of terror and disbelief, his mouth opening in a silent scream as the skeletal figure glided past, observing with detached precision. The air was thick with an almost tangible pressure, as if the very atmosphere had weight, compressing Carl's chest, forcing his lungs to expand against resistance. Carl forced himself forward, though every step felt like moving through treacle. He had to witness, had to understand. That was the only path to survival, he told himself. Each tableau of torment etched itself into his mind, faces contorted with fear, bodies defying human limitations, wounds that healed only to reopen in new, more horrifying forms. And through it all the skeletal figure remained, guiding, observing, a relentless arbiter of judgment. He stumbled into a room that had once been the conference area, now transformed into a cathedral-like chamber of glass and steel, shadows flickering across impossibly high walls. On a raised platform in the center lay a ledger, massive, ancient, its pages glowing faintly. Names scrolled across the surface, including his own. The sight made Carl's stomach churn. Each name represented a life altered, a promise broken, a sale made at someone else's expense, and beside each name was a tally, a mark of transgression that glowed ominously. Carl saw Vincent, Douglas, Thomas, all tallied, all marked, and then his own name, Finnegan, Carl J., followed by an ever-growing series of marks, each one burning into the page as if etched by fire. The skeletal figure's voice resonated from every corner of the chamber. "You see now, Carl. Every transaction, every word spoken, every contract signed, they are not without consequence. You have built empires on the suffering of others. You have sold hope, then stolen it. And tonight, the cost is collected." Carl fell to his knees, hands clutching the edge of the platform. "Please, there must be some way to make this right," he begged, voice cracking. I'll undo the deals. The figure's gaze bored into him, unyielding. "You cannot undo the past, but you can learn. You can bear witness. You can understand. Survival is not given freely, Carl. It must be earned through comprehension and acknowledgement." A sudden noise drew his attention, a low, mournful wail, not from the chamber but from somewhere deep within the twisted office corridors. Carl turned and saw another figure, a woman, mid-30s, impeccably dressed, her eyes wide with terror. She had been a rising star in the department, notorious for her ability to manipulate clients into signing contracts beyond their means. Now, she was caught in a bizarre, invisible trap, her body suspended horizontally in midair, twisting slowly as if spun by some unseen hand. Her scream echoed, merging with the cries of others, a symphony of anguish that reverberated through Carl's very bones. Carl felt his stomach churn. Each death, each punishment, was not random. It was symbolic. It mirrored the ways these salesmen had destroyed lives, exploited trust, and elevated themselves at the expense of others. And through this horrific theater, he began to grasp the deeper lesson. Ambition without conscience carried a cost, one measured not in dollars or contracts, but in life itself. The skeletal figure extended a hand toward him. Carl flinched, instinctively recoiling, but the hand did not strike. Instead, it gestured toward the woman, then toward the ledger, then back to him. "Observe," it said. "Learn. Understand. Your survival hinges on it." Carl forced himself to step forward, despite the nausea, the fear, the overwhelming sense of doom pressing down upon him. He watched as the woman's body twisted and contorted, finally collapsing into a pile of spectral mist, vanishing as if she had never existed. He shuddered, turning back to the ledger, tracing the marks with his eyes, feeling the weight of each tally like a physical burden. Names of men and women, their fates sealed by their own choices, by their own greed, their own ruthlessness. And in that moment, Carl understood. He was both observer and participant, marked not only for what he had done, but for what he would do, for every choice he had yet to make. The skeletal figure's voice whispered again, softer this time, almost intimate. "Do you understand, Carl? The cost is unavoidable. Some salesmen die, others live but are forever changed. You may survive, but the ledger will not forget. The debt will follow, and one day, you may find yourself paying it in ways you cannot imagine." Carl sank to the floor, overwhelmed, shaking, the reality of his situation settling into every fiber of his being. He had entered a nightmare from which there was no simple escape. The office, the storm, the twisted geometry, the relentless tally of sins, they were all parts of a single, terrifying truth. The world of sales, built on manipulation and exploitation, demanded a reckoning. And tonight, he was witnessing the death of some salesmen. As he sat there, staring at the glowing names, the cries of the condemned echoing through the impossible corridors, Carl realized that he had a choice. He could continue to resist, to fight, to deny the reality, and perhaps join the growing number of spectral figures consumed by their own arrogance. Or he could submit to the truth, bear witness, learn the lessons, and perhaps, just perhaps, find a fragment of mercy in the midst of judgment. The storm outside raged on, a mirror of the chaos within, as the skeletal figure glided silently toward him. Carl swallowed, trembling, and whispered to himself, I will watch, I will learn, I will remember. And somewhere, in the distorted office that had become a tribunal, a nightmare, and a mirror of ambition, the first lesson of the night began to take hold in his mind. The ledger waited, the tally continued, and the death of some salesmen was far from over. The house seemed to breathe as Montgomery wiped the dust from his face and forced himself to stand upright again, shaking off the humiliation of being dragged across the floor only moments earlier. The scent of iron and rot clung to everything, a stale humidity that crawled under his shirt and sat cold on the back of his neck. Baby, still gripping her blood-slicked cleaver, was humming a childish tune, rocking on her heels, while Pa leaned against the crooked staircase with a satisfied grin etched deep into his weathered face. Ma, forever muttering about the doctors who had wronged her, looked at Monty with the expectant glaze of someone choosing whether to treat him like a stray pet or dinner. He felt their eyes on him like hot coals pressing into his skin, yet he forced a trembling smile, lifting his hands slowly, palms up, as though trying to tame 3 unpredictable wolves. "All right," Monty said, voice cracking despite his attempt to steady it. "I think we got off on the wrong foot. Let's just start over." Pa's grin widened, showing crooked teeth the color of old newspapers. "Starting over's something you do at birth or after a resurrection, boy. You ain't looking like either's in your cards." Baby giggled, wiping her blade on her dress, streaking dark red across the faded yellow fabric. Monty swallowed hard. He noted again that the staircase behind Pa sagged in one corner, rotting, unstable, a distraction point, a weakness, something, anything he could use. "You folks said you wanted to talk business," he pushed. "And that's really good news for me because I'm excellent at business. The best. People say that all the time about me." Pa tilted his head. "What people?" "People? Lots of people. Name one." "Well, I would, but they're probably busy doing business with my guidance." It was a pathetic answer. He knew it. They knew it. But Pa only chuckled, tapping the wooden railing with 2 thick knuckles. "Boy, you keep talking pretty, but pretty don't get us nowhere. Ma's got a question for you." Monty forced himself not to look at Ma, though he could feel her intense gaze boring into him. "Are you a doctor?" she asked sharply. "No," Monty answered instantly. "I told you. Salesman. Just a salesman. Nothing to do with medicine, science, healing, slicing, cutting, stitching, or—" "Show me your hands," Ma interrupted. Monty hesitated, but before he could react, Baby stepped around him with surprising speed and thrust the point of her cleaver under his chin. "She said," Baby whispered sweetly, "show her your hands." Monty forced his trembling fingers upward. Ma studied them closely. The room went silent. Even the house seemed to stop breathing. Ma stepped closer until he could see the tiny beads of sweat collecting on her upper lip. She sniffed his palms, then inspected every line as if searching for clues buried in his skin. After almost a full minute, she stepped back. "He ain't a doctor," she announced. Pa gave Monty a playful shrug. "Well, that settles one thing. Least you ain't on Ma's bad list. That's the one list worse than Baby's playlist." Monty exhaled shakily, relief loosening his spine, but only by an inch. Pa continued, "But that don't mean you're safe, boy. We still gotta decide if you're worth keeping round." Baby twirled her cleaver like it was a baton, skipping a small circle around Monty. "Can we see him run again? He runs funny, like a pigeon with a mortgage." Pa chuckled, but Ma wasn't amused. "If he runs, we chase. If we chase, we kill. That's wasteful. I ain't wasting breath on chasing." Monty lifted his hands higher, his voice desperate. "No running, no chasing, no killing. Look, I've got something you want, something valuable, something the outside world doesn't have anymore." Baby's eyes lit up. "Is it a pony?" "No." "Is it a pony outfit?" "No." Baby pouted. Pa stepped forward. "Then spit it out." "Information," Monty said. "I have information. About people. People with money, lots of money. People who might actually want to buy something from you." Pa raised a brow. "From us? What in the blazes would we be selling to city folk?" "Whatever you want," Monty said too quickly. "You name it. Antiques, stories, old land deeds, ghost tours, jars of mysterious preserves. You have no idea how much hipsters will pay for the illusion of authenticity." Pa scratched his chin thoughtfully. Baby leaned toward him like a child asking for candy. "Pa, what if we sold jars of eyes? Hipsters love weird stuff." "Baby," Ma warned, "not eyes from the living. Obviously," Baby clarified. "I ain't no monster." Monty blinked rapidly, trying not to think about how loosely this family defined the word monster. "Look," he said, "you folks have character, and character sells. People pay big money for novelty. I could handle the marketing, the packaging, the distribution." Ma cut him off. "Speak plain." "I can get you money," Monty said. "Real money. If you let me live." Pa exchanged glances with Ma and Baby. They were silent for several long seconds, long enough for Monty to hear every thud of his pulse echoing inside his skull. Finally, Pa nodded slowly. "All right then. Show us." Monty blinked. "Show you?" "Show us how you get money," Pa said. "You said you're a salesman. Sell us something. Something real good. Something worth sparing your hide." Monty stared blankly. His brain screamed like a siren. Sell something? Here? Now? In a house full of weapons and questionable smells? Baby clapped excitedly. "Ooh, a performance. Can I be the judge? I love judging. It's like deciding if people explode or not." "I'll judge," Pa corrected. "Baby, you help Ma bring the chairs." The two women hurried off, Baby skipping, Ma shuffling with the purposeful gait of someone who had carried far too many heavy secrets. Pa pointed Monty toward the middle of the room. "Stand there, and don't fall on your face this time." Monty stepped into position. His hands shook. His breath shuddered. His mind scrambled for anything, any pitch, any script, any lie that could save him. Pa dragged a wobbly chair from the shadows and sat heavily, crossing his arms. Baby plopped beside him, legs swinging. Ma sat last, holding a cracked notebook and a dull pencil as if preparing to grade a final exam. Pa grunted, "Whenever you're ready, boy." Monty inhaled, closed his eyes for a brief second, and summoned every ounce of salesman bravado left in his battered body. "Ladies and gentlemen, and family members of various delightful eccentricities, what I'm about to show you is not merely a product, it is a revolution." Baby gasped. "A revolution? Is it made of fire? Revolution should be on fire." "This one," Monty said, "is even better than fire." Pa raised a skeptical brow. "Go on." Monty reached into his pocket, slowly, making sure no one thought it was a weapon, and pulled out a small, crumpled plastic container. The sample emergency water purifier he always carried for his Apocalypse Survival Starter Kit pitch. "This," Monty said, holding it high, "is the Clean Pure Pocket Purification Device, guaranteed to turn even swamp-ridden, bacteria-ridden, life-ending sludge into crystal-clear, health-boosting hydration." Pa blinked. Ma leaned forward. Baby squinted dramatically. "What's that mean?" Pa asked. "It means," Monty said, "you can drink from any puddle, any ditch, any barrel, no matter what's floating in it, without dropping dead." Ma scowled. "You saying our water's dirty?" "No," Monty said, his voice cracking again. "Not dirty, just robust, full of personality." Baby perked up. "Like me." "Exactly like you," Monty said. Pa rubbed his jaw. "Prove it." Monty froze. Prove it?" Pa pointed toward a rusted bucket in the corner, filled with thick, dark water that smelled like something long deceased might still be lurking in its depths. Drink from that. Then use your magic doodad. Monty's throat tightened. His stomach rolled. His brain screamed again. Or, Pa added calmly, Baby can help you drink it. Baby lifted the cleaver eagerly. Monty swallowed, hard, then stepped toward the bucket. Monty stared into the bucket as if it were the gaping mouth of some ancient creature waiting patiently for a sacrifice, its surface swirling thickly like oil and graveyard runoff, a smell rising from it that made his throat clench and his eyes blur. Pa leaned forward with both elbows on his knees, a predator waiting to see if the prey would attempt flight or simply collapse from terror. Baby bounced on the balls of her feet, humming an off-key tune and tapping her cleaver against her palm in the rhythm of a child anticipating candy. Ma watched with narrowed eyes, her arms folded tightly across her chest as though ready to diagnose discomfort with punishment. Monty felt their collective anticipation like a physical weight pressing down on his spine. His mouth was already dry, desert dry, because dread had wrung every last moisture molecule from it. "Well," Pa drawled, "show us how pure that little doohickey makes it." Monty forced a strained smile, though every muscle in his face screamed betrayal. "Of course," he croaked. I always demonstrate. It's part of my commitment to customer satisfaction." "Drink it," Baby chirped, hopping once. "Drink it, or I'll drink it for you, or out of you." She giggled. Monty's stomach flipped at the phrasing. He bent slowly, painfully, like a marionette controlled by someone with a sick sense of humor. The closer he got, the more the stench intensified, metallic, swampy, with an undertone he refused to identify. He could almost feel the bacteria partying in the vapor. He glanced briefly over his shoulder at the family. Pa had the calm stare of a man observing nature at work. Ma scribbled something in her cracked notebook. Baby licked the side of her cleaver for no reason other than boredom. Monty turned back to the bucket. "You've done worse for commission," he muttered to himself. Then he plunged his hand into his pocket, pulled out the small purifier, and snapped the top open with shaking fingers. The filter inside was meant for survivalists, hikers, and paranoid billionaires who thought the apocalypse was 3 days away. It was not designed for whatever slurry this was. Monty dipped the purifier into the viscous liquid. It made a faint sucking noise as the filter filled, a sound so grotesque it made Baby squeal with joy. He lifted it to his mouth. His hands trembled violently enough that some of the dark liquid dribbled onto his wrist cold and thick. He gagged instinctively but clamped his teeth together. "Go on," Pa encouraged. "Bottoms up." Monty closed his eyes and drank. The taste hit him all at once, like swallowing a compost heap soaked in rust and flavored with the tears of someone who regretted every life choice. The purifier did remove some of the sludge, but not the flavor, not the texture, not the sensation that death itself was sliding down his throat. He choked, coughed once, closed his eyes tighter, and forced another mouthful down before his body could reject it. Baby applauded. "He didn't explode! I wanted him to explode." Monty wiped his mouth with his sleeve, trying not to vomit. "See?" he rasped. "Crystal clear. Perfectly safe." Pa stood slowly, walked over to the bucket, dipped a thick finger into the dark water, raised it to his nose, sniffed it thoughtfully, then wiped it onto Monty's shoulder. "You got guts, boy. I'll give you that. Stupid guts, but guts nonetheless." Ma nodded slightly. "He ain't a doctor, and he ain't a coward. That's something." Baby twirled her cleaver, disappointed. "But is he fun?" Pa placed a heavy hand on Monty's shoulder. "Let's find out." Monty nearly collapsed under the weight of the hand, not because it was heavy, but because everything in him was unraveling. He needed a plan, a real plan. He needed to leave, run, jump out a window, tunnel through the floorboards, anything. But Pa's grip tightened. "We're taking a little walk," Pa said. Monty's stomach dropped. Walk?" "Outside," Pa said. We want to see your work ethic. Baby clapped. Are we going to bury him? Not yet, Pa replied. We're going to dig first. Monty felt his legs nearly give out. Pa dragged him toward the back door, the one Baby had previously burst through like an enthusiastic tornado. As they passed the threshold, Monty noticed something he had been too terrified to clock earlier. The yard behind the house stretched far into an open, tree-scarred landscape dotted with ancient farm tools, rusted barrels, and half-collapsed sheds. And pits. Several pits. Some filled. Some half-filled. Some still open. Baby skipped behind them, swinging her cleaver, while Ma trailed last, clutching her notebook and muttering to herself about measurements and proper angles. Monty's shoes squelched in mud as Pa stopped in front of a half-dug pit. The dirt around it was loose, uneven, as if someone had started digging and grown tired halfway, perhaps because something inside the pit had started pushing back. This here, Pa said proudly, is the future. The future? Monty echoed. Yep. Pa handed him a shovel. Start diggin'. Monty blinked at the family. Me? Who else? Pa asked. I'm supervising. Ma's writin'. Baby's bein' baby. Baby waved. Monty stared at the shovel. What exactly am I digging for? Depends how well you do, Pa said. Maybe it'll be for plantin' something. Maybe for buryin' something. Maybe for practicin'. Baby leaned close, eyes wide with excitement. Maybe for buryin' you if you do a bad job. Baby, Ma snapped without looking up. Let him swing the shovel first before threaten him with the consequences. Pa gestured at the pit. Get diggin'. Monty had no choice. He stepped into the half-dug hole and jammed the shovel into the dirt. The soil was heavy, damp, and clumped together like cement mixed with bones. His arms shook from exhaustion, dehydration, fear, and the lingering horror of whatever he had just swallowed. But he dug. He dug because stopping meant dying. After several minutes of strained silence, Pa spoke. So, while you're doing that, tell me more about this money you're going to bring us. Monty hesitated mid-shovel. Ah, yes, money. You said you'd get us some, Pa reminded. Marketing, novelty, weird stuff, your fancy salesman talk. Monty forced a laugh. Absolutely. I have systems, connections, contacts, people who trust me completely. Name one, Ma said from behind her notebook. Monty kept digging. Well, there's one man, Mr. Leonard Hatchings, owns a chain of survivalist stores, loves rustic stuff, ate a pine cone once just to prove a point. Pa nodded approvingly. Sounds like our kind of folk. Monty swallowed. He had made Leonard Hatchings up on the spot. Baby leaned over the rim of the pit. Can he come visit? Eventually, Monty said. Sweat stung his eyes. His arms throbbed. Once I send word. How? Pa asked. We ain't got phones out here. Last one exploded after Baby fed it soup. The wires looked hungry, Baby explained. Monty gripped the shovel tighter. Well, I could write him a letter. Pa's gaze hardened. And how do we know you ain't writing a letter asking for help to come get you out of here? Monty froze. Dirt clung to his face and clothes. His breath pulsed fast and shallow. Pa stepped closer. You think we're stupid, boy? Monty tried to speak, but no sound emerged. Pa crouched beside the pit, his face inches from Monty's. You better be real careful with whatever words you put in that letter, 'cause if you try lyin', Baby finished cheerfully, we'll turn you into soup. Monty forced another laugh, manic, desperate. I would never lie. Pa stared into him long enough that Monty thought his heart would burst. Then Pa stood. Good. Keep digging. Monty dug, and dug, and dug. His muscles screamed. His spine felt like it was turning to dust. His mouth was still coated with the aftertaste of toxic death water. Eventually, Pa raised a hand. Enough. Monty nearly collapsed as he dropped the shovel. Pa examined the pit. Not bad. Baby clapped. Ma scribbled a note. Then Pa said something that froze Monty's blood completely. Now, get in deeper. Lay down. Monty stared at him. Lay down? Gotta measure something, Ma said. Height to width ratio, don't argue. Baby leaned closer, whispering, If the pit's too small, we cut you to size. Monty shook violently, but Pa's stare dared him to refuse. Slowly, shakily, he stepped down, lowering himself until his back touched the cold dirt. The pit walls rose around him like a coffin in progress. Pa leaned over the edge. Comfortable? Not remotely, Monty whispered. Good, Pa said. Means you're taking this serious. Monty looked up at the sky, a dull, cloud-choked gray that felt too far away. His breath quickened. He felt the weight of soil around him, the closeness, the helplessness. Pa pointed a thick finger at him. You try anything funny. Anything at all. And we finish filling this pit, with you in it. Baby grinned brightly. I'm real good at packing dirt. Monty's heart hammered. Pa continued, But you do well. And we might let you send that letter. Monty swallowed, hard. He nodded quickly. Pa extended a hand, huge, calloused, impossible to refuse, and helped Monty climb out. Monty's knees buckled when he reached solid ground. Pa patted him twice on the back, firm enough to bruise. Come on, Ma needs to check her notes. Baby's got chores. And you, we still got to decide if you're worth the trouble. Monty forced a breath, a long one, a trembling one. As they walked toward the house again, he felt the overwhelming certainty that his time was running out. He needed a new plan. Fast. Something real. Something clever. Something desperate. Something that would either save him or get him killed even faster. Monty's legs trembled as he crossed the threshold of the house again, the worn wooden floorboards groaning under his weight as though even the structure itself was tired of his presence. Pa nudged him forward with 2 fingers pressed firmly against the back of his neck, steering him toward the center of the living room like a ranch hand guiding a skittish goat to slaughter. Baby zipped past him in a blur of manic giggles and dangerous enthusiasm, her cleaver leaving shallow scratches across the wallpaper as she swung it playfully. Ma shuffled behind, clutching her thick stained notebook and muttering under her breath about angles, density, and something called meat distribution efficiency, which Monty chose not to think too hard about. He took a careful breath, then immediately regretted it when the air filled his lungs with the scent of damp timber, old stew, and the lingering metallic tang of rust, a scent that lived somewhere between a barnyard and a mortuary. Pa stopped him in front of a rocking chair that looked as if someone had carved it during a nervous breakdown. Sit, Pa ordered. Monty obeyed instantly, nearly collapsing into the chair. It creaked ominously beneath him, swaying gently, like a cradle preparing for its occupant's eternal rest. Ma clicked her tongue twice. Before we decide if you're sending any letter, we gotta do an evaluation. Baby raised her hand like an eager student. Can I stab him during the evaluation? No, baby, Ma snapped. Evaluations ain't for stabbing, they're for thinking. Baby deflated dramatically. Pa dragged a 3-legged stool toward Monty and sat, leaning forward like a disappointed father preparing to tell his son he failed the family legacy. Now, you say you ain't a doctor, ain't a coward, ain't a liar, so what are you? Monty blinked. Salesman? That much we guessed, Pa said. But what kind of man are you? 'Cause we can't decide your usefulness till we figure out what type of fellow we're dealing with. Monty swallowed hard. This was his moment. His one opportunity to manipulate the dynamic, to shape their perception, to prove he was valuable enough to keep alive. Well, he began, choosing his words as carefully as picking a lock while a gun was pressed to the back of his skull. I'm resourceful, dedicated, a hard worker. I can adapt quickly to new environments. Baby clapped. He means being buried alive. Monty flinched. No, I mean, he means he's slippery, Ma said, tapping her pen against her notebook. Slippery folks survive, sometimes. If we let 'em. Pa scratched his chin thoughtfully. Resourceful, huh? Let's test that. Monty felt his breath catch again. Test how? Pa snapped his fingers. Baby sprinted off. Monty heard her rummaging violently in another room, drawers slamming, objects clattering, something fragile shattering, and then she returned triumphantly holding a dusty wooden box about the size of a briefcase. "Here," she announced, dropping it at Pa's feet. A cloud of dust burst into the air, making Monty cough. Pa opened the box. Inside lay a strange assortment of objects, each one more confusing than the last. A pair of broken binoculars, a rusty horseshoe, a tangled fishing line, several mismatched keys, a chunk of limestone, a cracked mason jar lid, and what looked suspiciously like a human molar. Monty took an involuntary step back in the rocking chair, which creaked again like a dying animal. Pa gestured at the box. "Pick something." "Pick?" Monty echoed. "A tool," Pa explained. "Something you think will save your hide." Baby leaned forward eagerly. "Pick the tooth." "Baby, that tooth ain't a tool," Ma murmured. "Not unless you're real creative." Pa pointed. "Go on, pick." Monty's hand trembled as he reached toward the box. Each object seemed to radiate its own form of doom. The fishing line could strangle him. The keys probably opened the door to his coffin. The binoculars looked like something an outlaw used right before being shot. He needed something harmless yet potentially improvisable, something symbolic, something that would make him seem clever, not threatening. He grabbed the horseshoe. Pa's eyebrows rose. Ma hummed thoughtfully. Baby looked disappointed. "Why'd you pick that?" Pa asked. Monty forced a smile. "Because it's lucky." Pa laughed once, one short, sharp burst that held zero humor. "Luck ain't real. Hard work's real. Dirt's real. Gravity's real. Luck? Nah." "But people believe in it," Monty said quickly. "And belief is powerful. I can use symbolism, charm, and superstition to sell any idea. Even yours." Pa tilted his head slightly. "Mine?" "Your lifestyle," Monty said, his mind racing. "Your family heritage, your unique traditions." Baby brightened. "We have a heritage?" Ma shrugged. "Suppose so." Monty leaned forward. "People pay for authenticity, for stories, for experiences, for legend. Folks in the city crave a taste of something real, raw, unfiltered, dangerous but safe, rural grit." Pa frowned. "What kind of fool pays for grit?" "Rich fools," Monty said. "Lots of them." Pa exchanged a glance with Ma. Baby raised her hand again. "Can we sell him?" Pa sighed. "No, baby. He's the one selling." Ma closed her notebook abruptly. "Explain exactly how you plan to make us money. No fancy words. Straight talk." Monty took a deep breath. "I'd turn you into a myth, a family brand, the ultimate survivalist fantasy, a rural dynasty of tough-as-nails pioneers who live off the land, know secrets of the soil, and guard generational traditions." "We do guard things," Baby said proudly. "See?" Monty seized the momentum. "People eat this stuff up. I build a story, write an article, sell it to magazines, newspapers, survivalist forums. Soon, your land becomes a destination, a place people want to visit." Pa narrowed his eyes. "Visit?" "Yes," Monty said quickly, "but on your terms. Controlled. Profitable. You dictate what they see. You charge for tours, merchandise, experience packages. You'll be legends." Baby squealed. "Can I scare the visitors?" "Only if they pay extra," Monty said. Baby gasped in delight. Pa rubbed his jaw. "This sounds like a whole mess of trouble." "No trouble," Monty insisted. "Everything goes through me. I handle the outside world. I protect your privacy. I bring in money, and no one knows anything unless you want them to." Ma considered this quietly, then gestured her pen at Monty. "How long until this starts?" Monty's heart jumped. "A couple days, maybe 3. I just need to send that letter." Pa's eyes sharpened. "There it is." Monty felt sweat bead at his temples. I don't mean escape, I swear. I just need my associate. He'll set everything in motion." Pa leaned in until Monty could feel the heat of his breath. And how do we know he ain't bringing cops? Because he hates cops. Monty lied without hesitation. Despises authority. He once got arrested for throwing a sandwich at a police horse. Baby cackled. Ma snorted. Pa pulled back slightly. All right, you get your letter, but we're watching every word. Monty nodded furiously. Of course. Pa stood. But first, more tests. Monty's blood went cold. More? Resourcefulness ain't proven with talk alone, Pa said. We gotta see how you handle situations. Baby jumped onto the sofa, waving her cleaver over her head. Obstacle course. Ain't got the time, Ma muttered. We need something simple. Pa snapped his fingers. Simple thing. Fix the generator. Monty froze. The generator? Out back, Pa said. Went out last week. Baby tried fixing it, but melted the insides. Baby shrugged. It looked thirsty. Monty felt the room tilt. I'm not a mechanic. You said you're resourceful, Pa reminded. So, be resourceful. Ma pointed her pen at him. Fix the generator and we'll let you write your letter. Fail. Baby finished enthusiastically. We'll turn you into barbecue. Pa gave Monty a firm shove toward the door. Time's ticking, boy. Monty stepped outside, the fading daylight casting long shadows across the yard. The generator sat near a shed, its casing blackened from whatever Baby had done to it. As he approached, he saw wires fused together, scorch marks, and something sticky smeared across the side. He prayed it was grease. He knelt beside it, staring at the wreckage. He had no tools, no knowledge, no hope. He was trapped between a broken machine and a family eager for entertainment. The horseshoe still hung from his fingers, and then an idea. A small one, a stupid one, but maybe enough. He stood, turned toward the house, and called, Pa! Pa stepped outside with Ma and Baby flanking him like a jury. What? Monty held up the horseshoe. I need luck for this, your family's luck. This whole place runs on tradition, right? So I need permission to use it. Pa stared at him. Then slowly, unexpectedly, he smiled. Well now, that's the first smart thing you've said, Baby clapped. Ma nodded approvingly. Pa stepped forward. All right, show us what that luck can do. Monty crouched again, the horseshoe in hand. He pretended to examine the generator like a man studying sacred scripture. In reality, he had no plan, no clue, no idea. But he whispered under his breath, Please, don't kill me for this, and began improvising, using sheer desperation as a wrench. The night in the Sykes household settled into a strange, pulsing quiet. The kind of quiet that didn't feel empty but swollen with unseen shapes moving just out of the corner of one's eye. Judd lay awake in the small cot they had thrown him onto, though cot was an overly generous way to describe the lumpy arrangement of springs and cloth that dug into his spine with the enthusiasm of a hunting dog. The darkness around him shimmered faintly with the soft glow of something he could never quite identify. Maybe a lantern left swinging somewhere, maybe the gleam of moonlight bouncing off old metal, maybe his imagination filing complaints at the speed of panic. He had no idea how long he'd been lying there staring at the splintered beams of the ceiling. It could have been minutes, it could have been hours. Time was a sick joke in this house, twisting, bending, curling around itself like a snake that enjoyed strangling its own tail. His breath came shallow, careful, barely louder than the rustle of cloth when he shifted his weight. He didn't want to wake anyone, especially not the Sykes trio, who were terrifying enough in daylight but monstrous in the quiet intimacy of night. But it wasn't the thought of Ma and Pa and Winona that kept him awake. It was the question rummaging through his mind with sharp claws, tearing at every fragile sense of logic he had left. Where was Billy? Not Billy the man, but Billy the concept. Billy the hole in the house's layout. Billy the thing they kept mentioning without ever explaining. Every mystery in the house orbiting around that name like planets around a dying star. Judd remained motionless, listening, waiting, praying the night would pass without incident. But the house did not believe in uninterrupted nights. He heard it first as a soft scraping somewhere down the hall. Slow, deliberate, like someone dragging something heavy across old floorboards. A chill darted up his spine. The scraping came again, closer this time, accompanied by a faint, irregular thump. Something, or someone, was moving in the hallway. Judd squeezed his eyes shut instinctively, as if refusing to see would make the sound disappear, but the noise persisted, growing louder, shaping itself into a rhythm that matched neither footsteps nor anything human. He swallowed hard and forced himself to sit up, his limbs trembling. The cot squeaked, a tiny complaint that felt deafening in the dark. The scraping paused. Judd froze. The scraping resumed, then stopped again, as though whatever was in the hall could hear his heartbeat thundering like fists pounding on a door. He held his breath until the ache became unbearable, then forced the air out in silence. Slowly, carefully, he stood. His legs felt unstable, like they were made of wet paper instead of muscle and bone. He took one quiet step toward the door, and the floorboards whined beneath him. The scraping stopped again. Judd wished desperately that he could disappear into the shadows, become part of the darkness itself, but his body refused to obey any command except trembling. After a long, dreadful stillness, he gathered what little courage he had left and leaned toward the door, just enough to peer through the narrow crack where the wood had warped over the years. A faint sliver of moonlight cut across the hallway, and in that sliver, something moved. Something large. Something wrongly shaped. Judd's breath hitched. The figure lumbered forward, dragging one foot or object, it was impossible to tell, behind it. Its posture was hunched, its shoulders sloping in uneven angles, and its head drooped forward like it was too heavy for its neck to support. Judd couldn't see the face, thank God, but the silhouette was enough to make a cold, icy terror bloom inside him. The shape stopped in front of his door. He bit his knuckles to stop himself from making a sound. The figure turned slightly, and something about the way it moved, the dragging, the hunch, the asymmetry, struck Judd as deeply wrong, not in the way a human might limp, but in the way a marionette might move if its strings were in tangled, incompetent hands. The figure sniffed. It sniffed again, loudly, as if searching for something. Judd's stomach twisted. Then, without warning, the figure's head jerked violently toward the crack in the door. Judd stumbled backward, choking on a gasp he couldn't contain. The silhouette pressed closer, casting a warped shadow across the inside of the room. For a moment, Judd was certain the door would open, that whatever it was would burst inside and do whatever the Sykes family never quite elaborated on. But instead, the figure drifted slowly past, still dragging its misshapen burden, leaving a trail of sound that faded down the hall like a nightmare easing its grip on consciousness. Judd collapsed onto the cot. Sweat pouring. He covered his face with both hands, shaking uncontrollably. He didn't know what that creature was, but he knew one thing with absolute, painful clarity. It wasn't human. Eventually, exhaustion forced his body into an uneasy sleep, the kind that resembled fainting more than resting. His dreams were fragmented horrors, twisted limbs, hollow eyes, a laugh that sounded both familiar and impossible, but by morning the dreams evaporated into the stale air of the room. Sunlight seeped through the grimy window, illuminating dust motes that floated like lazy fireflies. Judd sat up slowly, every muscle in his body stiff. He listened carefully. Nothing. No scraping, no thumping, no sniffing. Just the muted murmurs of conversation elsewhere in the house. He rubbed his face, trying to scrub away the memory of the night, but the details clung stubbornly, sticky as cobwebs. Gathering his resolve, he stepped out into the hallway. The boards creaked under his weight, but the house felt significantly less hostile with the sun draped across its interior. Still, his eyes darted to the far end of the hall, the direction in which the figure had disappeared. There was no trace of anything, but there was a smell lingering faintly in the air. Something rotten, something old, something like damp earth freshly disturbed. Before he could think further, he heard a familiar voice. "Mornin', city boy." Judd turned to see Winona leaning casually against the wall, her arms crossed, her hair wild as ever, her grin sharp enough to cut glass. "Sleep good?" she asked, though the tone of her voice said she didn't care about the answer. He forced a smile, stiff and unconvincing. "Fine," he lied. "Glad to hear it." Winona pushed off the wall and gestured toward the stairs. "Ma wants you in the kitchen." That sentence carried an unmistakable weight, one that made Judd feel like he was walking toward a judge preparing to deliver a sentence. The kitchen, as always, smelled like overcooked meat and something grassy Wilton had probably dragged in from the yard. Ma sat at the table, rolling dough with the intensity of someone kneading out personal grudges. Pa hovered nearby, humming tunelessly as he carved something on the counter. Judd didn't want to look too closely. "Sit," Ma commanded without looking up. Judd obeyed immediately. Pa turned toward him. "We been thinking," he said, tapping his knife against the counter, "about last night's excitement." Judd's blood turned cold. "Excitement," he repeated carefully. "Mm-hmm," Pa hummed. "Billy was wandering again." Judd felt his stomach collapse into itself. "Billy?" he whispered, even though the name tasted like danger in his mouth. Ma finally looked up, her eyes glinting with something unreadable. "You saw him, didn't you?" she asked quietly. Judd hesitated. Any answer felt like stepping into a bear trap. "I heard something," he admitted. "Didn't see much." Winona appeared behind him, leaning close enough that he felt her breath brush the back of his ear. "Billy likes to walk at night," she murmured. "Sometimes he gets confused. Sometimes he gets hungry." Ma set down her rolling pin. Pa set down his knife. The entire room's tension tightened like rope pulled taut. Then Ma smiled, a strange, unsettling smile that didn't fit her face at all. "Well then," she said, "maybe it's time you met him proper." Judd's heart stopped. "Met? Billy?" Ma nodded. "If you're going to stay with us a bit longer, best you get acquainted with the family." Pa chuckled. Winona grinned like a devil who'd misplaced her pitchfork. Judd swallowed, his throat raw, his heart pounding. When would this meeting be?" Ma stood, wiped her hands on her apron, and pointed toward the back door. "Right now." The room spun around him as Pa grabbed him by the arm, not roughly but firmly enough to make resistance pointless. They led him outside, past the barn, past the broken fence, toward the far edge of the property where a small, half-collapsed shed leaned like a drunk trying to stand upright. Winona skipped ahead, humming the same tuneless melody Pa had been humming earlier. Judd felt the air grow colder with each step. The smell, damp earth, rot, something unpleasantly alive, grew stronger. Pa pulled open the shed door. Darkness pooled inside like ink. "Billy?" Pa called cheerfully. "We brought company." Something moved in the darkness. Something big. Something breathing. Judd stumbled backward instinctively, but Winona blocked his escape with a single, eager motion. "Go on," she whispered, eyes gleaming. "Say hello." The darkness shifted again. A shape began to form, and Judd finally understood, terrifyingly, deeply, irreversibly, why nobody ever survived a sales call to the Sykes house. Judd stood frozen at the threshold of the shed. The breath lodged in his lungs like a stone he could neither swallow nor spit out, and the shadows inside writhed in a way that defied the laws of nature, refusing to stay still, refusing to reveal themselves, taunting him with the possibility that whatever lurked within was studying him with more interest than the Sykes family ever had. Pa gave him a gentle shove between the shoulder blades, not enough to knock him off balance, but enough to make it clear that this moment was not optional, not negotiable, not escapable, and Judd stumbled a few inches forward, his shoes touching the dirt that looked darker, damp, disturbed. Behind him, Winona let out a giggle so high and bright it scratched his ears, while Ma stood with her hands folded neatly in front of her apron as though preparing to watch a baptism. Not an introduction to whatever monster her family kept as casually as one keeps a rooster or a hound. "Go on," Pa urged, his grin a wide, crooked crescent. "Billy's real friendly once he gets a sniff." Judd didn't want to know what that meant. He didn't want to think about the implications of "gets a sniff," but the words clung to him like sticky burrs on fabric. He took one unsteady step into the shed, then another and another, his heart pounding so violently he wondered if it might echo loud enough to draw the creature's attention. The air inside was thick, moist, heavy with the scent of decay mingled with an animal musk he couldn't identify. Something shuffled in the darkness. His eyes adjusted slowly, painfully, and the shape at last began to take form. A hunched mass sat in the far corner, its outline trembling faintly as though it struggled just to remain upright. Judd squinted, leaning forward slightly despite every cell in his body begging him to lean back, to run, to escape while he still had time. "Billy?" he whispered, though the name barely left his lips, cracked and brittle. The creature's head snapped toward him. Judd recoiled instantly, slamming into the doorframe, but didn't fall. Its face came into view, a grotesque blend of familiarity and nightmare, as though someone had taken pieces of a person and tried to reassemble them without any understanding of anatomy. The skin hung in sagging patches, the eyes unevenly spaced, one larger than the other, the jaw extended in a drooping, slack angle, and worst of all, the smile. A long, wet, slack smile that spread across its face with a slow ripple of skin, revealing too many teeth and yet not enough, as if they had been borrowed from other mouths. The creature let out a wet, gurgling sound that might have been a greeting, or a warning, or hunger. Judd's knees buckled, but he forced himself to remain standing. If he fell, he feared Billy would move toward him. If Billy moved toward him, Judd feared the world would end. "There now," Ma said warmly from behind, as if introducing a child to a new puppy. "He likes you already." Judd didn't turn around. He couldn't take his eyes off the thing in front of him. "What is he?" he managed to choke out. Pa responded with a laugh that was far too cheerful for the situation. "He's family, son. Always been family, always will be. But he's..." Judd couldn't finish the sentence because the creature shifted again, struggling to pull itself upright. Its limbs were mismatched. One arm long and sinewy, dragging against the dirt, the other stiff and nearly motionless, while its legs seemed barely functional at all, bending at odd angles like branches of a tree lightning had struck. It dragged itself closer to him by scrabbling with its long arm, its fingers, long, crooked, too many joints, digging into the soil. Judd stumbled backward until he was pressed so tightly against the doorframe he could feel the splinters digging into the skin beneath his shirt. "Don't be rude," Ma warned. "Billy went to all that trouble to get up and greet you." Winona giggled again, and the sound was delighted, childish, eager. "He likes fresh meat." Judd froze. His heart stopped. His skin prickled with cold sweat. "Fresh what?" Winona leaned in beside him, her mouth close to his ear, her voice a whisper soaked in mischief. "Meat, city boy. Don't you know what folks are to Billy?" Judd forced himself to speak even though his throat felt as tight as a rope. "You're saying he eats people?" Winona shrugged, smiling. "Not all people, just the bad ones, the ones who come here lying." She tapped him lightly on the cheek. "Like salesmen." Pa chuckled. Ma nodded approvingly. "Circle of life and all that. You can't let a helpless creature go hungry." "Helpless?" Judd nearly barked. His voice cracked, quivered, betrayed him. He's lonely," Ma interrupted, her tone suddenly tender. The unexpected softness made Judd turn toward her, even though doing so meant looking away from the monstrosity, which continued to claw its way closer. "Billy ain't like other boys. Folks don't understand him. Folks get scared." She glanced at Judd knowingly. "Kinda like you are now." "Anyone would be scared," Judd snapped. He's not human," Pa finished for him. "Son, lots of things in this world ain't what they look like. Sometimes a man looks human but ain't. Sometimes something that ain't human is more loyal than any person you'll ever meet." Judd's breath shuddered. The creature, Billy, reached him. Its long fingers grazed his shoe. The touch was cold, damp, heavy with the weight of something that used to be alive and now was something else. Instinctively, Judd kicked backward, jerking his foot away. Billy reacted instantly, letting out a deep, throaty growl that rumbled through the shed like distant thunder. "Easy now," Pa warned, gripping Judd's shoulder with a hand strong enough to crush bone. "Don't rile him. Billy don't like when folks are rude." Judd's mind raced. He had to get out, now. But Pa's grip tightened. Winona blocked the exit. Ma stepped closer, her face drawn into a grim, resigned expression. "There's no need to panic," she said softly. "You ain't in danger, yet." Judd felt the word yet strike him like a hammer. "We're going to ask you one thing," Ma continued. "One little thing." Pa leaned forward, mouth twitching into a twisted smile. "Tell us the truth. What's a city boy like you doing out here? Real reason, no lies." Judd swallowed so hard his throat burned. I told you. I'm selling plots. Burial plots." He forced the words out quickly, desperately. "I've done this for years. It's my job. That's it." Ma exchanged a look with Pa. Pa exchanged a look with Winona. Winona exchanged one with Billy, who blinked slowly, as if understanding far more than Judd hoped it could. "You hear that, Pa?" Winona said sweetly. "He thinks we're stupid." Pa's voice hardened. "Try again." Panic surged through Judd like an electric shock, and before he could stop himself, the truth spilled out, messy, frantic, unfiltered. Fine. I lie for a living. That's what salesmen do. We lie. We manipulate. We convince. I needed the money, I needed the commission, and I thought you were just a bunch of rural hicks I could trick, okay? That's why I came here. I thought you'd be easy." His voice broke into a ragged shout. Silence followed, heavy, suffocating, immense. Billy leaned closer, sniffing the air around Judd's legs, its massive jaw hanging open, drool sliding down in thick ropes onto the dirt. Winona burst into delighted applause. "There it is. The truth." Pa grinned, pleased. "See? That wasn't so hard, was it?" Ma nodded approvingly. "Honesty's important in a family." For a moment, Judd felt a spark of hope, that maybe telling the truth had saved him. Then Ma spoke again, softly, sweetly, fatally. "But it's too late now." Judd's heart dropped. You said..." "We said you weren't in danger yet," Winona corrected, beaming. "Not that you'd stay that way." Pa released Judd's shoulder and stepped backward. "Billy's been hungry for a while now." Billy's fingers curled around Judd's ankle. Judd screamed. The Sykes family watched, smiling, and the darkness of the shed swallowed the rest. Judd's scream echoed through the shed, bouncing off the rough wooden walls like a warning he couldn't escape, a siren of panic that seemed only to amuse the Sykes family and their monstrous companion. Billy's grip tightened around his ankle, cold and unyielding, and Judd felt himself dragged inch by inch toward the far corner where shadows pooled into a deeper, more oppressive darkness. Every nerve in his body screamed to run, but the moment was a frozen trap. Each attempt to struggle resulted in only a harsher pull, and the more he resisted, the more he realized that this was a game he could not win with strength or wit. The smell of damp earth, rot, and something unidentifiably organic hit his senses like a wave, making his stomach churn violently. The creature, grotesque and malformed, was relentless, its movements slow but impossibly strong, dragging Judd's body over the dirt-strewn floor. Winona's laughter punctuated every jerk and strain. "He likes it when you fight," she sang. Pa's voice followed, calm, unnervingly so. "Don't worry, city boy. Just a little test of character. Shows us you've got spirit." Ma nodded, her expression serene, almost motherly, yet her eyes gleamed with a strange calculation, the sort of cold, detached assessment one might reserve for livestock rather than a guest. Judd's mind raced for any possibility of escape, anything to stop the inevitable, and yet all that sprang to mind were weak, half-formed ideas, using the door, the tiny window near the ceiling, maybe even the horseshoe he had foolishly left in his pocket, but all seemed impossibly far away, beyond reach. He screamed again, louder this time, and the sound seemed to disorient Billy for the briefest of moments. Judd seized the opportunity, yanking backward with all the strength his terror could muster. Pain exploded through his ankle, a shooting agony that felt like fire mixed with ice, but the creature didn't relent. It merely hissed, a wet, guttural noise that vibrated through the air and seemed to press into Judd's very bones. Winona danced around him, delight in her eyes, watching the scene unfold as if it were theater rather than horror. "You're trying too hard," she cackled. "He likes the struggle, but don't exhaust yourself too quickly. Show him you can endure." Judd's muscles trembled violently. Sweat poured down his back. Every breath felt like inhaling shards of glass, every heartbeat a hammer striking the ribs. The floor was uneven, littered with debris and remnants of previous horrors Judd didn't want to imagine too closely. He stumbled, barely catching himself before his face smashed into the dirt, and the brief loss of balance was enough for Billy to move another inch closer, tightening its grip and dragging him farther into the oppressive darkness. "Stop!" Judd shouted, though the word held no power. "Please, stop!" His pleas were met with silence from Ma and Pa, and another sharp, high-pitched laugh from Winona. Judd felt his strength waning. Muscles burned, joints ached, and his vision began to blur around the edges. Panic, raw and unfiltered, surged through him, and in that instant he realized the simple truth. This was no ordinary trap, no simple test of courage or honesty. This was a predatory ritual, a measure of human endurance and fear, and he was the entertainment. The creature let out a wet, gurgling hiss as it pressed him further into the corner. The walls closed in metaphorically, suffocating, pressing. Judd's mind sought escape in any form, logic, persuasion, cunning, but all the training, all the preparation, all the plans he had ever made were useless here. The horseshoe in his pocket burned against his thigh, a dull, futile reminder of luck he no longer felt. Then, in a flash of desperate inspiration, he remembered the lighter he had kept in his coat pocket. Hands trembling violently, he fumbled, finally producing the small metal device. He flicked it open, igniting a tiny flame. The sudden flare of light made the shadows in the corner recoil, and Billy froze, head cocking in sudden interest and confusion. Judd's heart leapt. He had a weapon, however small, however pathetic, but it was a start. He took a trembling breath, flicking the flame toward the creature's grotesque face. Billy recoiled, its form writhing in the small illumination, drool gleaming, fingers twitching. Judd seized the moment, yanking backward with all his remaining strength. Pain screamed through his ankle again, but he managed a step, then another. The creature hissed, and Judd realized that its strength, while terrifying, was compromised by its hesitation. He pressed his advantage, swinging the lighter back and forth in a desperate, frantic arc, illuminating the corners of the shed and startling the creature further. It recoiled, letting go slightly, and Judd seized the moment to scramble to his feet. He dashed toward the door, but Winona's voice cut through the air like a blade. "Don't think you can run yet!" she shrieked. Pa appeared in the doorway, blocking his escape, knife in hand, calm as ever. Ma followed, arms crossed, expression calculating. Judd skidded to a halt, lighter trembling in his hand. The creature, Billy, advanced again, dragging closer with unnatural, jerky movements. Judd's mind raced, searching for a solution, and then it struck him. Leverage. Billy's size, strength, and grotesque form were formidable, but the shed itself was narrow, cluttered, weakly structured. If he could manipulate the environment, create a barrier, a hazard, maybe he could even buy himself a few seconds, maybe more. He dashed toward a loose pile of boards near the far wall, swinging at the pile with his foot. Boards tumbled, one catching Billy's arm awkwardly. The creature yelped, recoiling. Judd saw his chance and kicked again, hurling a splintered plank into the creature's face. Billy stumbled back, a wet, inhuman noise echoing through the space. The Sykes family reacted instantly. Pa lunged to correct the disturbance. Winona squealed with delight. Ma's hands flew to her notebook, scribbling frantically. Judd didn't wait for them. He sprinted to the door, lungs burning, limbs screaming in agony, mind consumed by a single objective: get out. He slammed into the doorway and burst into the sunlight, squinting violently against the brightness after the oppressive darkness. The yard stretched before him, deceptively calm and beautiful, masking the horrors that had taken place mere minutes before. He didn't stop running until the shed, the laughter, the grotesque figure, and the Sykes family were far behind. Every step carried a jolt of agony from his ankle, every breath a reminder of how close he had come to the impossible. He collapsed behind a fallen log at the edge of the yard, gasping, shaking, lungs heaving, vision swimming. He knew instinctively he couldn't stay. He couldn't return, and yet he also knew he couldn't run blindly forever. Somewhere in the distance, the faint sound of the Sykes family's laughter echoed over the fields, carried by the wind like a haunting melody, a reminder that what had happened in that shed was neither isolated nor random. Judd clutched the horseshoe in his pocket again, small, metallic, cold against his fingers, a token of luck he didn't feel but desperately needed. The day was only beginning, but the horrors he had faced already made time meaningless. He had survived the night, barely, but he understood with terrifying clarity that the trials were only escalating, that the family's rituals and games had no end except the one they dictated. And as he rose to continue moving, every instinct screaming to flee, he realized that the true danger wasn't just the creature, wasn't just Billy, wasn't even just the Sykes family. It was the inevitability of the world they inhabited, a place where every shadow hid judgment, every corner held menace, and every heartbeat was borrowed from the mercy of a family who delighted in testing it. Judd limped toward the edge of the property, each step careful, measured, wary of branches, roots, and the earth itself. He didn't know where he would go, didn't know if he could survive the night again, didn't know if luck, skill, or desperation would be enough. But one thought repeated in his mind, as relentless and cold as the morning breeze cutting across the open fields. He had seen Billy. He had touched the edge of horror, and somewhere in the shadows of the house, the Sykes family watched, waited, and prepared for the next opportunity to prove, with exquisite precision, that no salesman, no outsider, no liar, no city boy was safe. The sun climbed higher, indifferent, burning through the mist, revealing the farm's every detail, the broken fence, the scattered tools, the looming barn, and the tiny shed that contained nightmares beyond reckoning. Judd's shadow stretched long behind him, distorted and twisted in the morning light, and he felt an uncomfortable kinship with it, elongated, distorted, caught in the strange geometry of the Sykes world. He understood, finally, that survival here wasn't about strength or cunning. It was about endurance, about noticing, reacting, and perhaps, in some infinitesimal lucky way, escaping the attention of beings who judged not by morality but by curiosity, hunger, and ritual. Judd swallowed hard, gripping the horseshoe until his knuckles whitened. The world was wide, terrifying, and uncaring, yet he had a single purpose now: live long enough to see it again, to understand it, and maybe, just maybe, turn it into something he could use. But first, he needed to put as much distance as possible between himself and the Sykes farm, between Billy, between the laughter, between the horror that had so recently touched him. And as he stumbled down the uneven path leading away from the house, the echo of monstrous gurgles, childish delight, and Pa's crooked grin haunted him, whispering promises that the day's trials were only the beginning. He didn't look back, but he knew, in every cell of his body, that the darkness would follow, patient, inevitable, waiting for the moment he least expected, because the Sykes family, and Billy, and the very land itself were not content to let an intruder leave untested. Judd's legs burned with pain. His lungs screamed with each ragged inhale, but he kept moving, driven by fear, desperation, and a fragile glimmer of hope that he might survive what was coming next. Judd stumbled through the fields, each step uncertain, the uneven ground biting at his ankles, the grass slick with morning dew that soaked his shoes and chilled him to the bone. His mind raced faster than his legs could carry him, replaying the horrors of the shed over and over, each iteration magnifying the grotesque image of Billy, the hunched, malformed creature with its slack, gaping mouth and uneven eyes. He could still feel the cold, damp weight of its fingers against his ankle, the pressure of something not quite alive, yet monstrously strong, dragging him toward the darkness. The Sykes family's laughter echoed faintly behind him, carried on the wind, teasing and omnipresent, even though the distance between him and the house increased with every staggered step. Judd didn't dare glance back, fearing that doing so would draw his attention into some cruel trap of memory or magic. But a primal part of him knew that the eyes of the Sykes household were following him, unseen and unblinking. Panic clawed at his chest, yet he forced himself forward, limping, ignoring the burn in his legs, the deep, throbbing pain in his ankle, and the ache in his lungs that begged for relief. Somewhere ahead, he noticed a line of trees marking the edge of the property, their skeletal branches clawing at the sky. He hoped they might provide cover, a chance to vanish from sight, a temporary reprieve from the horrors he had endured. As he neared the edge of the field, his foot caught on a hidden root and he pitched forward, falling onto his hands and knees. Pain flared through his ankle again, sharp and blinding, and he groaned, forcing himself to rise. The sun, now higher, burned against his back, a harsh reminder that daylight could not erase the night's events. Judd's vision swam as he reached the tree line. Shadows cast by the morning light created patterns that looked almost alive, twisting and writhing, teasing his exhausted mind. He forced himself to concentrate, to see clearly, and noticed a small path weaving through the trees, leading toward the neighboring woods. It was narrow, overgrown, and uncertain, but it offered a potential escape. With careful, deliberate steps, he moved forward, each stride sending sharp pain up his leg, each breath rattling in his chest. His senses were